me a lot of Rex Ryan and Herm Edwards. The calm of Herm Edwards, but the fire of Rex Ryan.
Mike LaFleur, who is the passing game coordinator in San Francisco, is expected to follow Saleh to New York to become the Jets' offensive coordinator.
So that's the second shoe that dropped yesterday. Back page of the New York Post.
Been on a lot of those.
Yes, Keyshawn took the money and ran. Robert Saleh got some money and ran towards Florham Park. Mr. Green for Gang Green on the back of the New York Post this morning. And speaking of the Jets Uber fan Mike Greenberg, his show, of course, follows ours on ESPN Radio. Greeny will take you inside the stories of the day as only Mike can. Have the newsmakers you'd expect and interact with you every single weekday morning from Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin right into Greeny weekday mornings on ESPN Radio. So you heard the deal. Robert Saleh, last 4 years, defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, will be the new head coach of the Jets. The Jets, over the course of their history, have always tended to hire defensive-minded coaches. Of course, their last coach was offensively inclined, but if you take a look at the arc of the history of the franchise...
So much for that.
Brilliant mind. What do you guys mean?
Before Key and after Key, generally been defensive guys. Here's Adam Schefter on exactly why Saleh was the man in New York.
They loved his energy. They loved his outlook. They loved his perspective. I think they loved everything about what he would bring to this particular job. They sat down, and from the time they sat down with him, they were enamored with the energy, the spunk, the intelligence that he would bring to that job. His players loved him in San Francisco. His players loved him in Houston when he was there. You saw after the Jets announced the agreement with him on Thursday night, Richard Sherman said the New York Jets got themselves a great one. Those are Richard Sherman's words. Richard Sherman knows a thing or two about coaches, and I think the Jets shared an opinion, and that's why they gave Robert Saleh a 5-year deal.
You know, the great thing is when you look at Robert Saleh, who is Lebanese descent. He is a guy who is coming from San Francisco, and like Adam said, whenever you have somebody like a Richard Sherman saying that they got him a good one, and the track record speaks for itself, it shows. There it is. Defense is where it's at. You look at where he took over at and where he ended at with the defense. There was no major drop-off. Everything was consistent. There was no highs and low dips, even though when you look at the roster and the makeup of the 49ers defense, that they kind of fell apart from injuries, but they stayed the course, and he was able to still manage a defense to put them in the top 10 in the NFL defensively. And so you got to think that they got him a guy who is young, the team is still young, and they can build off of this and take their time. It's no rush or pressure to all of a sudden go to the Super Bowl in a year or two, but could be a consistent builder and show progress where they hadn't in the past. Adam Gase didn't show anything. He didn't show anything at Miami, but he was hired with the Jets. I don't think that that's what you're going to see with Robert Saleh and the New York Jets coming over from San Francisco.
Key, I agree with you. Look, Robert Saleh is a leader. Like, he's a everyday, come to work, no BS, say it to you straight, and you feel that when you see him every single time, right? Like, it's not only are his defensive numbers great, but the way he leads. And I feel like with Adam Gase, that's such a dichotomy. Right? Adam Gase was sometimes passive-aggressive, sometimes saying things that were a little bit cocky and arrogant, and then wasn't performing on the field. And when you roll that way, if you're not winning at a high clip, it's not going to work, right? I feel like Saleh is going to be more steady. But, Key, I want to bring it to a different point, too, like, because you said it and didn't really see it at the time, but it makes sense now because, Zubin, I'm going to bring back something I said. I always said I would love to see Sam Darnold play for the 49ers, right? Like that Kyle Shanahan offense. And Key was like, look, Sam Darnold could end up being the quarterback here. I think now you're trending towards more of a direction with Mike LaFleur, the passing coach from the 49ers, the Kyle Shanahan tree, right? Like that can all be built right there in New York. You keep Sam Darnold, you use the pick the way you want to, or you trade down, whatever you use, whatever you want to hold for it, and you start building that way. It's really interesting the position there now, Key.
Well, passing game coordinator LaFleur coming over from San Francisco, who's the brother of the head coach of the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur. So there's going to be some Shanahan principles, some West Coast principles, something that Sam Darnold ran in college and was used to running. So you're going to bring that style, a quick game, 5-step drops, 3-step drops, get the ball out fast, not all this 7-step play action stuff, understanding quarterback play. And that's what you got to be able to have as an offensive coordinator if you decide that Sam Darnold's your guy moving forward. They're in a great spot, right? They could hijack the draft if they choose to do so.
Yep.
And by what I mean by that is sitting at number 2, depending on what happens at 1. If Jacksonville decides to do something different at 1 with Urban Meyer and they go Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence is sitting there too, and the Jets decide that they're going to trade it because somebody wants to come up.
Kid, do you really think that's realistic that the Jaguars would take Justin Fields at number 1? You don't think they would package that up and trade it before they would take Justin Fields?
I really don't know, right? Obviously, but let's assume they stay there. And let's assume Urban Meyer's familiarity with Justin Fields and Urban Meyer's familiarity with a program that he built at Ohio State, recruited Justin Fields since his freshman year. He wanted between Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields. And Justin Fields decided to go to Georgia because of baseball and football. And then he elected to leave Georgia when Jake Fromm beat him out, according to Zubin. And
it happened. It was a fact. Check it out.
And now he goes there, and Ryan Day is somebody who he signed off on to become the head coach to replace him, and there's a relationship there. So all of the intel that he would need on Justin Fields in the meeting rooms, and he gets it right there. He knows what the kid is. So it's easier to digest and take a quarterback or take a player that you have so much information about if he aligns to what you want to do.